Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing to talk about the NBA draft, and right here, we're talking about one of the more interesting teams as far as the draft went. The Dallas Mavericks. They made a big trade, acquired Josh Richardson in exchange for Seth Curry. Well, I'll let you know how I feel about that move, and they also drafted Josh Green. So before I get into it, though, I want to remind you to like and subscribe. Been appreciating all the support lately, and I hope to see that continue. Without further ado, let's talk about some Dallas Mavericks. All right, well, they've got their superstar, Luka Doncic, obviously. Terrific player, terrific playmaker, top 3 playmaker in the NBA, I would say. Maybe top 5. But clearly a terrific lead ball handler. Can shoot the ball from 3. Has an excellent step back move, also a really good side step move. On the ball, he's one of the better scorers in the NBA. Despite not being the most athletic player, he's still able to create space with his frequent drives to the rim. Could use some improvement on defense, but isn't absolutely awful on that end either because he gives at least some effort. So, yeah, Luka, everybody knows who he is. He's a star. He's a superstar. And in this draft, the Mavericks' goal was to surround him with pieces that helped him out. They accomplished that goal. I think that Josh Richardson is the perfect backcourt complement for Luka Doncic. He can be a solid secondary creator. He has a decent jump shot. He didn't shoot it great in Philadelphia this past year, but he was also being asked to do a little too much. He wasn't playing in the kind of role that is ideal for him. And most importantly, he's a terrific defensive player. He's the kind of stopper that this team needed to add. He's going to be able to lock down a lot of the better guards in the Western Conference and maybe even some of the forwards. We saw him match up on guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the playoffs last year and do a pretty solid job. So I think that this was a really nice get for the Mavericks. I have a few questions about it because they did give up, they gave up a guy with 3 years left on his contract and brought back an expiring. Obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers had to give up a fairly valuable second-round pick that they turned into Tyler Bay in exchange for the extra contract security that they have with Seth Curry. But if the Mavericks don't re-sign Josh Richardson, I'm not sure that this is the best deal for them because Curry was really important on the offensive end for them because of all the stuff that he can do in creating space for his teammates just because of the gravity he has as one of the best shooters of all time. So, well, I do think that Richardson's a great fit with Doncic. The rumors that the Mavericks were in for a big trade were Victor Oladipo and Drew Holiday, and Josh Richardson is a player who is similar to those two, but maybe a tier below them in terms of his skill on the basketball court. But they also didn't have to give up as much as they would have for an Oladipo or a Holiday. So if they are able to keep Josh Richardson around, I think this is a really good trade. If he leaves them after this season, I still think it's a solid trade, but I would have rather had Seth Curry on his long-term cheap extension as a really solid role player than Josh Richardson on a 1-year deal. So there is a bit of risk there for the Mavs, but if they keep Josh Richardson around, I think this was one of the better deals that any team made during the draft. And the draft picks that they actually made weren't my favorite. Josh Green is a good defensive player, but I don't really know what else he's going to do. When people look at him, I've said this many times, but people look at Josh Green, they see the defensive player he is, they see that he's a wing, and they say, oh, this guy's going to be a 3-and-D wing. Well, he's got the D, but he doesn't have the 3. He really can't shoot. So I think that people are projecting his jump shot a little bit too much. I had a second-round grade on him because of the questions I have about his jump shot, so I don't love this pick for the Mavericks. I think that they had better options on the board. I would have much preferred that they took someone like Tyrese Maxey or Saddiq Bey. I think Josh Green going over Saddiq Bey was a huge mistake because Bey can bring a lot of that same defensive versatility that Josh Green has while also being able to shoot the ball from distance and has a bit of ball handling ability on the offensive end of the floor, but Josh Green is a player that fits what they want to do. They want to add defensive guys who can help shore up their team on that end of the floor, where their best players, Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, have some struggles. But I think that it was a bit of a reach, and there were just better guys on the board, in my opinion, that I would have preferred to see the Mavericks take. Tyler Bey is kind of similar to Josh Green. He's a good defensive player. I don't think his impact is that high. I actually think that Josh Green is the better defensive player of the two, despite the fact that Tyler Bey was awarded the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year award over Josh Green. And actually, I think Onyeka Okongwu should have won it over both of them, but that didn't happen. So, Tyler Bey, another good defender, averaged about 15 points per game last year and shot the ball okay from three, but I really don't buy the jump shot. It's not real pretty to me. I don't think that he's going to shoot it at a high level at the next level, and for that reason, this isn't my favorite pick, but I'm glad they made it in the second round instead of the first. There were people talking about him going between 25 and 30, and even 20 and 25, and I think that would have been far too early to draft Tyler Bey. So I think that it's an okay spot to get him. There were other wings that I preferred on the board. Elijah Hughes went just a few spots later, and I was a big Elijah Hughes fan. I had Hughes 25th on my board, and I didn't have Bey in the top 46, which is as far as I went because I only think there's going to be 46 rotation guys in this draft. So yeah, I think that Elijah Hughes would have been a significantly better pick than Tyler Bey, but I also don't hate it, and I think that it was an okay spot. In the big picture, they have Luka, and they did an okay job surrounding him with some guys that can be good defenders. Josh Richardson, Josh Green, and Tyler Bey all fit that mold of wing guys who can play good defense. Richardson's the only one who I really trust the jump shot, so that makes me a bit nervous, but overall, they did a nice job of improving their weaknesses and shoring up on the defensive end of the floor. I think that they could have executed a bit better, but in the end, they did end up meeting what I think their goals probably were. In the bigger picture, they now have a new, Kristaps is going to be out to start the season, so is Dwight Powell. So I think their starting lineup to begin the year will be something like Luka Doncic, Josh Richardson, Tim Hardaway, Maxi Kleber, and Dorian Finney-Smith, with Smith and Kleber at the 4 and the 5. Or Finney-Smith and Kleber, I should say. That is a good lineup. Obviously, Luka is going to be the primary ball handler. Tim Hardaway is a knockdown shooter. Josh Richardson is a decent secondary playmaker who I'm okay with having the ball in his hands a bit as long as it's not overblown like it was a bit in Philadelphia where he was expected to take on a bit more of a lead guard role, especially with Ben Simmons out. That's not the type of player Josh Richardson is, and asking him to do that from Philly was just far too much. Kleber is another guy who can space the floor and is competent defensively. He's not great, and I think that he was much overcast when he was expected to guard Kawhi Leonard. That was just a not good, fair assignment for him, and that's why we saw Kawhi really beat up on him. I would have much preferred they put Kleber on Paul George and Dorian Finney-Smith on Kawhi Leonard, but you'll live and learn. This lineup is pretty solid defensively, as you have Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Maxi Kleber. Those are three above-average defensive players. Tim Hardaway isn't great, neither is Luka, but those two guys both fight on defense. Once Kristaps comes back, I think he would probably take either Finney-Smith or Kleber's spot in the starting lineup, playing the center, and then whichever of the other two doesn't get moved to the bench is the power forward. And at their best, they're going to have a really good bench unit of like Jalen Brunson, DeLon Wright, Josh Green, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Dwight Powell. They're going to have 10 players you can really trust playing, and that's without talking about guys like Justin Jackson and Boban Marjanovic. Oh, and I almost forgot. They also got Tyrell Terry with the 31st pick to be a bit of a replacement for Seth Curry. I think people are overblowing this a little bit when they say that Curry has a chance to be in the rotation next year. He was a second-round pick. How often do we see second-round picks play as rookies? Not very. I think Terry has some work to do. He's an excellent jump shooter, but He's put on some weight, but I think it's going to take some time for him to really adjust to the NBA on the defensive end. And while he is a solid playmaker, he's also going to have to improve there. He's going to be the third point guard for this team behind Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson. If you consider DeLon Wright the point guard, maybe even the fourth point guard, I think he'll probably spend some time in the G League, and this is going to be a year for him to grow. But I do think that this was a good pick for the Mavs. I had Terry 22nd on my big board. Maybe it was 21st even. So obviously a great value pick. And I think at some point on his rookie contract, he's going to be ready to contribute to this team. Maybe not in quite the same level that Seth Curry did with all of the stuff coming off screens and stuff, but Tyrell is going to be a nice floor spacer for them, and he's a basketball genius. He is able to survive on defense because of that, even though he doesn't have the best frame, and he also is just a really good passer. So on the offensive end, that's really going to help him become a type of secondary playmaker whenever he's on the floor. So I do think that that was a pretty good pick, and it was definitely my favorite of the three picks that they had, as I'm not a big fan of the Josh Green or the Tyler Bay selections. But really, I think that this team did get better on draft night. I think that Richardson is probably a better player than Curry, and I think that it's good that they were able to get that second-round pick. I like that Curry has some more contract flexibility as his contract runs on longer, but if the Mavericks are able to work out an extension with Richardson this coming free agency period, then this is a clear win for the Mavericks, as they were also able to bring in an influx of young talent in Tyler Bay. Overall, they got better, like I said, and that's really what your goal has to be. They have a really nice roster that fits together really well. And next season, they're going to have some cap space to try to hunt for that big fish, whether it's Kawhi, Giannis, or Paul George. They're going to have plenty of cap space to try to get their guy. So overall, I think the Mavericks did well on draft night. I would give their night as a whole probably a B+, because they got a better roster, but they didn't have the best draft picks. And I am excited to see this team play again next year. Hopefully Kristaps Porzingis and Dwight Powell can recover from their injuries quickly so that we can see this team at full strength once again. When they were at full strength, they were one of the best offenses ever. So, yeah, hopefully those two get healthy, and then the Mavericks are going to be really good again next year. I think they're probably going to be a top 5 or 6 team in the Western Conference, similar to the Golden State Warriors, similar to the Portland Trail Blazers. So, really, really excited for this team, and I can't wait to watch Luka play again. I said in my Warriors video that Steph Curry's my prediction for MVP for next year, but I think that Luka is probably a top 3 candidate. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment on what you think about the Mavericks draft day moves. Was Josh Green the right pick? Am I wrong about that? Was making Josh Richardson a good move, like I think, or was it a bad move? Am I wrong when I call it a good move? Let me know what you think. I think that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.